Let me ask you something. What would you do if everything you thought gave your life meaning disappeared overnight? The money, the titles, the people you thought would never leave. Back. Most people think love is tested in the good times, but it's only when you lose it all that you discover the truth about it. Back. What I'm about to share isn't theory. It's the lessons that pain carves into you when the world strips you bare, and the only thing left standing is love. When life strips you down to nothing, you start to see love differently. At first, it feels like love is about what you can hold, what you can keep, and what someone can give you. But when you're standing there with empty hands, no safety nets, and nothing left to hide behind, you realize love was never about gaining in the first place. Love becomes this raw exchange of energy, something far deeper than possessions, comfort, or status. Back. It's about the way you choose to show up for others, even when you have nothing tangible left to offer. It's about being present in the storm, holding someone's hand when you can't change their situation, back, and listening when you have no solutions. That's when love is stripped of all performance and pretenses. That's when it becomes undeniable and real. It back, losing everything gives you no choice but to finally see love in its truest form. There's a point where love stops being about, what do I get out of this? And starts being about, what can I give to this moment? That shift only happens when the comfort zone disappears. Take it back. Because when things are good, it's easy to confuse convenience for love. It's easy to think love is dinners out, gifts, grand gestures, or being in someone's presence because it feels good. But the test comes when none of that is available anymore. Can you still show up when you're exhausted? Can you still encourage someone when your own heart feels heavy? Back. Can you still love when you don't have the resources to make it pretty? That's when you find out whether love is real or just something that existed because the conditions were favorable. It's in those bare moments, it back, when life cuts you down to size, that love's depth is revealed. When I lost everything, I learned that love is more like a decision than an emotion. Back. It's a choice you make daily to keep showing up even when your feelings want to run. Emotions can fluctuate depending on circumstances, but true love has a spine. It stands even when you feel broken. Get back. It gives when you don't have much to give. It keeps pouring even from an almost empty cup. The surprising thing is that even when you feel like you're drained, giving love in those moments somehow refills you in ways nothing else can. It builds a resilience in your soul that no material possession could ever give. In the emptiness, love becomes a lifeline, not an accessory. It back. It's no longer about appearances, it's about survival. I used to think love was a feeling that happened when things aligned perfectly, but losing everything revealed how shallow that thinking was. Back. Love isn't about alignment, it's about endurance. It doesn't ask if you're comfortable, it asks if you're committed. When there are no rewards, no applause, and no visible return, will you still choose to love? Back. That is the question life asks when you are at your lowest point. And if you can answer with yes, then you've touched the kind of love that transforms. It doesn't look glamorous, but it is more powerful than anything else. Because once you learn to love when you're empty, you learn that you will never truly be empty again. There were days when I felt I had nothing to offer. Back. The weight of loss made me feel useless, like I wasn't enough without the things I had built. But in that state, I realized love doesn't care about what you bring to the table in terms of wealth, possessions, it back, or accomplishments. Love only cares if you're willing to give your presence, your attention, and your heart. And those things can never be taken from you unless you let them. Back. When I started offering my heart even in my lowest state, I found that the connection it created was stronger than anything money could have bought. It was simple, honest, and real. The truth is, it back, love without sacrifice is surface level. Anyone can love when it's convenient. Anyone can love when it costs them nothing. But real love is forged in the moments where it asks for something from you. Time, patience, back, forgiveness, or simply the strength to stay. Losing everything strips away the illusion that love is easy. It forces you to confront the reality that love will always cost you something back. And the question is whether you're willing to pay. When you do, you find that the return is greater than anything you could imagine. Because love is the only investment that multiplies when you give it away, it back. There's also a vulnerability in love that I only discovered through loss. When you have nothing left, you can't impress anyone, you can't hide behind success or possession, you are just you, raw, unpolished, back, and human. And in that vulnerable state, you see who is willing to love you anyway. That kind of love is humbling because it shows you that your worth was never tied to what you owned or achieved. It was tied to your very existence, your being, your essence. To be loved in that stripped down way is both terrifying and liberating. It reminds you that love is not about being perfect, but about being real. Love, when everything is gone, turns into the smallest gestures that suddenly mean everything. A reassuring word when you feel like collapsing. A quiet presence when your world feels loud with chaos. Back, a hand reaching for yours when you feel like you're sinking. These simple acts given in times of scarcity hold more value than the grandest gifts in times of abundance. Because love is no longer diluted by distractions. It is concentrated, pure, and intentional. And it's in that raw form that you begin to understand why love is considered the most powerful force in the human experience. At the end of it, back. Love in its truest form is not about what you can accumulate, but about what you can release. It's not about what you hold on to, but about what you're willing to pour out even when you're running low back. And that's the paradox. You discover that in giving love, you never actually run out of it. It regenerates. It strengthens you. It fills the empty spaces lost left behind back. That's when you realize that even if everything external is stripped away, the one thing you can never truly lose is the love you choose to give. When life pulls everything out from under you, you get to see a side of people you never noticed before. Loss has a way of shaking the foundation so hard that only what is real stays standing. The people who surrounded you when everything was good, it back, when the world clapped for your wins, and when the spotlight was shining, suddenly become very quiet when darkness falls. Some disappear without a word back, and others step back slowly until you realize they were only there for the version of you that benefited them. It hurts to watch the crowd thin out, but it also saves you from carrying illusions any longer back, because when all you have left is pain, only truth can survive beside you. That truth reveals itself through love, or the absence of it. And the revelation is both brutal and freeing. It back. The strange thing about pain is that it doesn't just test you. It tests everyone around you. People can say they love you when life is easy, but their actions during your struggles speak louder than any words. It back. The real measure of love isn't how loudly someone celebrates you when you're on top. It's how quietly they support you when you've fallen. Pain acts like a filter. Take it back, sifting out the people who are drawn to you for status or benefit and leaving behind the ones who are connected to you at the core. In those moments, silence and absence become the clearest answers. But equally back, the small, steady acts of support become the loudest declarations of love. When you lose everything, you start noticing the difference between convenience and commitment. It back. There are people who love the version of you that had resources, influence, or success, and they vanish when those things are gone. Then there are those who love you stripped of all that, it back, who stay not because it's comfortable, but because it's who they are. That is when pain does its most important work. It divides the temporary from the permanent back. It shows you who sees love as a transaction and who sees it as a connection that doesn't break under pressure. And even though it feels like betrayal when some walk away, it is actually a gift. It back. Because the truth is better than a comfortable lie. Yeah. There were moments when I looked around and realized how empty the room had become. People I thought would never leave were nowhere to be found back. But instead of resenting that emptiness, I started to see its value. It was the clearing that made room for something real. Pain had stripped away the noise back. And what remained was a handful of people who didn't just love me for the highlight reel, but for the unedited, broken parts too. And their presence was worth more than 1,000 voices cheering in the good times. Take it back. It taught me that love isn't about numbers. It's about depth. The fewer, the stronger. The quieter, the more powerful. Pain exposes intentions like nothing else can. You see who shows up when it's inconvenient back, who checks on you without needing a reason, and who reminds you that your worth isn't tied to your circumstances. Those people are rare, but their love is undeniable back. They don't need to say much. They don't need to fix you. They just stay. And that staying is love in action. The ones who disappear teach you a lesson too back. They show you that not everyone you call love actually means it. Some people only love the version of you that feeds their ego, their comfort, or their gain. And when that disappears, so do they. That lesson hurts, it back. But it also sets you free. There's a clarity that comes with heartbreak and loss. When your world is in pieces, the people who kneel beside you in the mess without asking for anything in return, back, reveal what love is supposed to look like. They don't need an audience. They don't need recognition. Their love shows itself through consistency, not convenience. And in that raw state, you start to redefine what love really is. It's not loud, it's not flashy, and it's not temporary. It's quiet, resilient, and patient. Pain removes the actors and leaves you with the genuine. That's when you realize pain is not just a destroyer, it's a revealer. I remember thinking that love was about who celebrated me the loudest when I won. But after losing everything back, I learned it's about who whispers encouragement when no one else is listening. It's about who holds space for your tears without judgment. It back. Who doesn't rush you to get over it, and who doesn't shrink away from your brokenness. That kind of love doesn't come in large crowds. Back. It comes in rare individuals who see beyond the surface and connect with the soul. They don't just endure your pain. They share it with you. And that shared weight makes it bearable. Back. There's also a paradox in pain. It reduces your circle, but deepens your connections. You may end up with fewer people around you, but the bonds that remain are unshakable. You don't question whether they love you back because they've already proven it by staying when it costs them something. That kind of love doesn't need constant reassurance because it has already been tested by fire. And in a strange way, take it back. Pain becomes the very thing that strengthens those relationships. Without it, you might have never known how deep their love truly ran. Pain reveals what celebrations could never show. Looking back, take it back. I realize the beauty of pain's lesson is that it forces you to stop chasing validation. You stop needing a crowd to feel loved back because you've experienced the power of just one or two people who stood by you when no one else did. That love outweighs the absence of the many back. It proves that love is not about how many people clap for you, but about who stays when there's nothing to clap for. It's about who sees your value even when the world sees only your loss. And that realization changes everything about the way you view love. When you hit rock bottom, the mirror becomes the hardest place to look. The noise of the world quiets, the distractions fall away, it back, and you're left with yourself, raw, vulnerable, and exposed. In that silence, you realize that love doesn't begin with someone else's approval. It begins with the way you see yourself. Get back. If you cannot respect yourself, if you cannot value your own existence beyond the things you own or the titles you carry, then every connection you build will be fragile. Back. Losing everything forces you to confront that truth. It asks whether you can still stand tall when all the symbols of worth are stripped away. Self-respect becomes the foundation you either rise on or collapse without. Back. For so long, it's easy to tie love to external markers, how attractive you are, how successful you look, how much you can offer. But when those markers vanish, you're left with the question, back, are you still enough without them? That is where self-love enters. It is not about arrogance or self-indulgence. It is about knowing that your worth was never tied to things that can disappear. When you begin to respect yourself, even in loss, you stop chasing validation from people who only love the image you projected. You start holding yourself to a standard that says, I am worthy because I exist, back, because I breathe, because I choose to grow. That inner recognition becomes the anchor in the storm. Self-respect is not built in comfort. It is built in fire. It comes from refusing to let failure define you, hit back, refusing to let loss diminish you, and refusing to let brokenness turn you into someone unrecognizable. It's about holding your head high even when your pockets are empty. Back. It's about speaking kindly to yourself when the world is harsh. It's about giving yourself grace in the moments you stumble. That grace doesn't excuse weakness. It empowers growth. Because when you respect yourself, you stop tolerating things that diminish you. You stop begging for love that doesn't see your value. And you stop accepting relationships that thrive on your insecurity. Back, there's a brutal clarity in losing everything. It removes the illusions you used to hide behind. Without them, you have to decide who you are without the labels, the titles, or the applause. That decision isn't easy, back, but it's necessary. When you choose to love yourself in the absence of validation, you build a kind of strength that can't be shaken by circumstances. You learn to sit with your flaws without despising yourself. Back. You learn to admit your mistakes without defining yourself by them. You learn that respecting yourself isn't about perfection, but about honesty. And honesty with yourself is where all real growth begins. Back. Self-love teaches you boundaries. Without it, you give pieces of yourself away to anyone who asks, hoping they'll give you worth in return. With it, you learn to say no, not out of cruelty, but out of respect for your own well-being. You begin to understand that love without boundaries is not love. It's self-abandonment. And abandonment of self is the fastest way to emptiness. Back, boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, but they are the lines that protect the value you've built within. They separate those who honor your worth from those who exploit it. And in that separation, you create room for real love to grow. There's also a shift that happens when self-respect takes root. You stop chasing love and start attracting it. When you carry yourself with dignity, back, when you treat yourself as someone valuable, people notice. The right ones are drawn to it, while the wrong ones are repelled. That shift doesn't mean you'll never experience pain again, back, but it does mean you'll stop settling for love that's conditional. Because once you've learned to love yourself through loss, you'll never again accept being loved only for your wins. Back, that kind of clarity is both powerful and liberating. I once believed that self-love was optional, something extra on top of relationships. But losing everything taught me that without it, back, every bond is built on shaky ground. If you don't love yourself, you seek completion in others, and when they falter, so do you. But if you respect yourself first, you bring wholeness into every connection. Back. That wholeness doesn't mean you don't need others. It means you don't depend on them for your identity. You love them not from desperation, but from abundance. Back. That is the difference between clinging and connecting. There is also a healing that comes with self-love. When you lose everything, shame tries to creep in. It whispers that you are less, that you've failed, it back, that you are undeserving of joy or connection. But self-respect refuses to let shame be the narrator, reminds you that loss does not define you. It refines you. That refinement happens only when you choose to see yourself as worthy even in brokenness. Healing doesn't begin when others forgive you or validate you. It begins when you decide to forgive yourself and move forward. Back. That act of grace is the purest form of love you can ever experience. Through self-love, you also discover resilience. When the world tells you that you've lost too much to continue, back, self-respect whispers that you still have something left, your will, your heart, your ability to rise again. That voice grows louder the more you practice loving yourself. And soon, get back. It becomes the force that pushes you to rebuild. You stop waiting for someone else to save you because you've realized you are capable of saving yourself. Back, that realization doesn't make relationships irrelevant. It makes them healthier. Because now you are not looking for someone to complete you. You are inviting someone to walk with you as you continue to grow. It back, and perhaps the most powerful part of self-respect is that it creates a love that cannot be taken away. Possessions can vanish, people can leave, and circumstances can shift overnight. Back. But the love you cultivate within yourself is yours to keep. It is the one source of strength that cannot be stolen. And in moments of loss, it becomes the well you draw from. The deeper that well, back, the more love you have to pour into the world, even when you feel empty. And that, in the end, is what makes self-love the foundation of all other love. When everything familiar is stripped away, back. When the safety nets are gone and the world feels unbearably heavy, you begin to see what truly lasts. Possessions can vanish in an instant, success can crumble overnight, and the people you thought would always remain can quietly disappear. Yet, in that silence, one thing refuses to be taken from you, love. Not the superficial kind tied to status or comfort, back, but the kind that endures even when your hands are empty. It becomes the invisible strength that carries you when nothing else can. Love remains when the applause stops. Back. It remains when the world no longer looks at you the same. And in its persistence, it shows itself as the only wealth that cannot be stolen. The truth is that we spend so much of life chasing what is temporary. Take it back. We run after titles, we grasp for recognition, and we cling to material proof that we are worthy. But the moment those things are gone, you realize they were never truly yours to begin with. Back, what is yours? What cannot be stripped away is the love you choose to give and the love you choose to receive. That love is not measured in numbers, not proven by applause, and not bound by circumstance. It back. It is carried in the quiet ways you show up, the sacrifices you make, and the moments you choose kindness over bitterness. That kind of love doesn't dissolve in loss. It grows stronger in it. When I lost everything back, I discovered that love was not a luxury, but a lifeline. It was not about roses or grand gestures, but about presence when everything else was gone. It lived in the people who stayed, in the small acts of care, back, in the voice that reminded me I wasn't alone. And it lived within me in the decision to keep giving even when I felt like I had nothing left. That realization changed everything. Because if love is the only thing that remains when the world is stripped bare, then love is the only thing worth building a life upon. Everything else is fragile, but love is unshakable. Back. Love also reveals its true power in scarcity. When you have nothing left to offer but your heart, you realize that is more than enough. You don't need wealth to show compassion. Back. You don't need status to stand by someone's side. You don't need success to remind another person that they matter. In fact, love is more powerful when it isn't hidden beneath distractions. In moments of loss, the simplicity of love becomes overwhelming. A hand held, a kind word, a moment of silence together. These acts outweigh the most extravagant gestures made in abundance because they are pure, because they are real. It is easy to doubt love when everything is taken away, but those moments of doubt are often where love proves itself. When fear whispers that you are alone, back. Love answers with the undeniable truth that connection cannot be erased by loss. It may not look the way it once did, but it is there, resilient and alive. And that realization changes how you move forward. You stop seeing love as something fragile that can break easily, and you start seeing it as the strongest force you carry. The strength of love is not in what it gains, but in what it survives. There's something unshakable about realizing love is the one thing no circumstance can destroy. It cannot be taken by bankruptcy, stolen by betrayal, or erased by failure. Because love does not live in external things, it lives in people, in hearts, in choices. That means as long as you are alive, you carry love with you. It cannot be removed, it cannot be extinguished, back, and it cannot be bought or sold. That truth is liberating because it reminds you that no matter how much life strips away, you are never truly empty. As long as you can love, you are full. What losing everything teaches you is that love is not only a force, it is freedom. Freedom from measuring your worth by possessions. Freedom from believing you are only valuable when you are winning. Back, freedom from the illusion that what you own defines who you are. Love is the proof that even in brokenness, there is beauty. Even in loss, there is meaning. Even in silence, there is connection. It back. It is the thread that ties you to others and to yourself, no matter how much the world changes. And it is the one investment that multiplies the more you give it away. Back. There will always be voices telling you that love is weak, that it makes you vulnerable, that it leaves you exposed. But that is the greatest lie. Love is not weakness. It is the greatest strength. Back. Because it is the only thing that survives when everything else fails. It is the force that rebuilds when the pieces are shattered. It is the power that steadies you when you have nothing else to hold on to. It back. And once you know that, once you've lived it, you stop running from love and you start rooting your entire life in it. Because you finally understand it is the only thing worth trusting. Back. Every loss teaches us what is temporary, but love teaches us what is eternal. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we stop wasting time on things that vanish and start investing in what remains. Back, that investment doesn't just transform how we live, it transforms how we endure. Because when storms come, and they always do, you'll know you're not left with nothing. You'll know that love is the anchor. Back. The light, the unshakable truth that cannot be destroyed. And with that knowledge, you'll face the future differently, not afraid of what you might lose, but confident in what you will always keep. And so, I trust myself to take it back. When everything else fades, when the noise goes quiet, and the world takes back what it once gave, you'll find yourself standing with the only thing that truly mattered all along. Love. The love you gave when it hurt. The love you received when you were broken. The love you carried within yourself when there was nothing else left. That love is your legacy, your wealth, and your strength. It is the one thing that will never abandon you. and in the end, it is the only thing that defines a life well lived.